You know who I think created one of the greater cultures is the Japanese, where a warrior understands peace and war. We have too many men that understand peace, but not understand war. And there should be no peace where there is no liberty. So why are we seeking peace when we're not free? So when we're talking about therapy, you don't want to overdiagnose yourself to make everything a problem in the first place. Some things are gifts. Diversity is a gift. But the way you turn them into gifts is that they become lessons, and you will become a perpetual life learner. And you're always looking for the lesson in it, and you take extreme ownership over your own life to where nothing is happening to you. It's happening because of you. Man, and it's become so powerful. But I understand there's so many great, beautiful light workers in our community. And they are the ones that are like angels to the community. The people that have the passion to create these spaces, the people that have the passion to do this work, that's working with victims of sexual trauma and people who've been child trafficked and, all sort of different things, from abuse to domestic violence. Man, the goal is not to trivialize their work. It's actually quite the opposite. Is that everybody should not be grouping themselves, right, in the same category of people who really have real things innately in their body, right, in their brain and their mind. You shouldn't be in the same category when yours might just require a mindset shift. That's different. People who have real mental illnesses, bipolarism and schizophrenia, those are people who need real, not just therapy. Like, they have something that they may not be able to cure as easy. They have things that have to deal with their brain, their body, their spirit, their mind. They require something completely different. They might have to be on some sort of drug to be diagnosed. That's different. And we're not making enough room for those people because everybody is overdiagnosing themselves. And it is a spectrum. When you can go on, so think about this for a second. When you can go on social media and watch a video for an hour and get a perspective shift, and then you no longer feel like you have a problem, you never had a problem. It was just learning. There's people that tell me, I had a sister walk up to me in one of my shows, and she said that I helped prevent her 19 or 21-year-old daughter from suicide. I get people that do that all the time, that they was going to commit suicide or depression, and it was going through a whole lot. And just by watching the video, it reinvigorated their life. They needed some motivation, some inspiration. They needed a perspective shift. That's not a mental illness. That's just learning. That's a change of environment. That's exposure. That's expanding. So we don't appreciate how powerful true knowledge is, right? That expands our capacity to understand ourselves and the world. But then there are some things that are like deep within our bodies that we have to cleanse out. So there is a perspective and there is a spectrum to what therapy is, but to say, go get therapy. How do you know that's the right one for me to go sit with a therapist and talk? In the U.S., we don't prescribe nature enough as therapy. We're not prescribing nature. In Japanese, it was shown that yoku shinrin, or forest bathing, right? It's prescribed to where essentially you go into the forest for like 3 days, and this brings down your anxiety and all sort of different things. They change up things in society in order for people to grow. But we start, look at my brother Nero, he understands the naming of entities and giving them power over us. And then they become things that you have to fight because it's things that you now believe in. hiking groups. Go hike. You know what I'm saying? Go meditate. How about some of you all, you don't have nothing, you ain't depressed, you just eat bad foods. And if you have low mental energy, then you don't have the energy to think, you don't have the capacity to deal with higher order thinking and critical thinking skills. So yes, everything is going to trigger you because you're eating the wrong foods. Then we take wholesale white psychology, and you got the nerve to tell me that I'm wrong, but we not studying from black psychology enough, and we don't speak about it enough. We don't want to be divisive. No, black therapists. I love the black therapists that be like, no, I teach from the black psychology because it's completely different minds. We're not the same people. We're not. So yes, I love those who take the holistic remedies and teaching our people. I just don't want it. And sometimes therapy is a cult. Let's just be honest. I might say that in a way to where I want to challenge your mind. But therapy sometimes is a cult. That's why people join cults. Sometimes people join things because they're going through a dark night of the soul. Some mass interruption. It could have been a heartbreak. It could have been a divorce. They could have lost a loved one. And it shatters all their beliefs about what their future life was going to be. And they have to start over. And they don't know who they are without this thing. And so they go through what's considered to be a dark night of the soul. This can last months. It can last years for some people. Then they start trauma bonding. Some of you are, some ladies, man broke your heart. Now you're in a relationship with a girl because y'all both got your heart broke. Then y'all start trauma bonding. You know what I'm saying? Then y'all start lesbo bonding. I know I ain't supposed to say stuff like that, but it's real. And then now your relationships and the connection you have with the people around you is because y'all got trauma. And then one person might not want to tell the next person, actually, I'm kind of healed from that. I'm kind of over that now. But the only real thing y'all got in common is these dark issues. And it's okay to heal and let people know I've evolved past that. It's okay. It's okay to let people know, listen, I ain't gonna lie, you keep complaining, man. I'm past that. Listen, sis, you still complaining about that old thing. I've actually healed. I've healed from talking about these type of things as well. Because sometimes you can make too much space for people and then they can live there because they're comfortable there now. And they actually get stimulated by having this space versus being stimulated by growth. So there is way too much trauma bonding going on in our communities. No, let's bond by the fact that we're healed and we're growing. And let's set markers and put a period sometimes on the healed conversation. Yeah, I don't want to continue to know someone and we talking about how we, been through a trauma and we've been knowing each other for years and that's the depth of our relationship and now we hate everybody else that don't use our language and don't walk around us and don't over regard our feelings and don't care whether we're in a safe space and we're not being triggered. It's been years. You've turned this into an identity. You turned it into a personality trait, as my sister talks about. So it's not a bad thing when your beliefs and your ideas are challenged. And that's where the therapist sometimes, I was talking to a principal yesterday, is that the teachers, right? Because that's what some therapists are at the same time. It's like, so do two parts of that conversation. You have teachers who don't continue to learn. If you think about a teacher in a high school, you think about a professor, right? A professor is constantly learning. Sometimes they publish in papers, right? They're working on different dissertations, things of that nature. They're still increasing their intellectual capacity. But a lot of these teachers, They just posting pictures, twerking and dropping pictures of new shoes that they just got. They're not continuing to grow intellectually. And it's similar to the same with therapists. Do you have the capacity to deal with people, or are you in survival mode? Because when healers are in survival mode, they're not the best healers. You ever look at some of them Indian sage monks and things of that nature? Well, they be speaking so slow. The mind cannot be sick unless the mind believes in sickness. In silence, there is no sickness. When you sit with a thought, you are automatically healed. Them gurus don't be in survival mode. They be so relaxed. You know what I mean? They be so relaxed. They got all the time in the world too. I mean, no rush to talk or nothing. Just so relaxed. And that's where you also realize that, yeah, some of the rich people that propagate therapy, they're not getting your therapist. So that's why you should focus on, yes, you can do talk, you can do walk, you can do train, you can do spirit. There's so many different ways you can do it. But you should focus on holistic, because most likely you can't afford the truly gifted therapist a lot of times. Right? And they become like, you have the what's the word that I'm looking for? The public defender. It's like a public defender. You know what I'm saying? A public defender is not the same as being able to hire, right, an attorney that specializes in the law and wins cases. Because these public defenders be burnt out, a lot of them. They're not getting paid that much, so they in survival mode. The teachers in survival mode, the therapists in survival mode, the public defenders in survival mode, yet they supposed to help you survive. How somebody underwater gonna help you from drowning? So this is where, yes, you might get a actress and a very rich person saying, go to therapy. Can I get your therapist? Can I get your therapist? Oh no, your therapist is what, $100 an hour? $1,000 an hour? It's a little different. I watched this show called Billions, and they got this therapist on there called Wendy. Oh, she like a specialist. She put people back together. I said, damn. If they was all like her, I have her around 24/7. But again, it's not all the same. So this is why I want people to take control of their journey when you say it, and you have to realize that, okay, maybe you're going to get the dollar store version. So you have to use the therapy as a tool. Don't let it use you. That's why most of it is going to have to be in your mind, and you're going to have to be there. And I'm sure the therapists are well-meaning and good, and they probably give you the tools and things of that nature. And a lot of people probably just don't follow them and stuff like that. And, you know, bless the heart of the therapist, because they probably try as much as they possibly can and do very good things and save all kind of lives. Right? It's very true. But it's not all the same. It's not all the same. Now people are triggered by the word cult. Well, a cult is a term often applied to new religious movements and other social groups which have unusual and often extreme religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs and rituals. Extreme devotion to a particular person, object, or goal is another characteristic. So sometimes people turn their therapy community into a cult. I wouldn't even say it's a necessary, bad thing per se. Cult, that's the root word of culture. But I think that we need to be careful and think critically to say, damn, you know, am I stuck in this routine of practices, right, and rituals to try to heal? Or do I want to do the work and grow through it and then move from it. Because what ended up happening is sometimes the community itself or the practice of going to therapy replaces the actual healing, because you just get the comfort of being there versus doing the work so you can be away from there. It becomes just a part of your routine, becomes a part of your life, right? You tell people, oh man, I'll go to therapy, right? It becomes a part of your identifier of who you are. So therefore, you're not trying to get out of therapy. No, because now you are now a part of social groups, and you use this as one of your virtue signals sometimes. Not everybody, of course. I'm definitely not speaking to everybody. There's a lot of people who need it. Right? So this is why it is important to say. And this is why some therapists can give other therapists a bad rap, because some therapists may be dependent on clients to be dependent on them. So that's why you have to go in there, right, with the tool to learn so that you're not constantly repeating. So you're moving forward on things. You shouldn't be going in there talking about your childhood for 5 years. When you think about outside of Western practices, the therapy is different, because you also realize the spiritual aspect is holistically missing, because a lot of people go to get a Western education to become therapists, so they don't add in the spiritual components, even though we're very spiritual people. So we're trying to over-rationalize everything from a mental understanding, but there may be spiritual components and a more divine conversation that should be had. And that is not something that we are adding enough, because we've become little groups of Freud and psychology, right? Trying to diagnose the spirit of the melanated person. See, the warrior, he's spiritual. You know, years ago, they thought that meditation was pseudoscience. They've only recently validated, right, meditation. Think about that. This is a recent validation of meditation. They didn't. So when you go to a lot of these schools, the therapists early, they wasn't telling people to go meditate, because it was considered pseudo.